And this session is being videotaped, so we can put it online for many people to watch around the world, literally. And we usually have a fear from police people. I mean, when we see the police car or something, we just shrink. But we have a really nice policeman here with us, Oyer. He is a multi-talented person, and I really like to read his writings and hear his presentation. So I'm sure you enjoy his presentation, Surviving Social Media.
Thank you very much, Dr. Wabi. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak here today. When he contacted me, one of the things that I like to talk to people about is social media. In the field of technology, nothing has really taken over media and changed the way people communicate like social media has over the last few years. It's unbelievable the amount of people who use social media for their news outlet instead of getting it in the traditional ways that we used to. This information that I'm going to talk about today, you can't talk about inappropriate use of social media and ways that it gets people in trouble without talking about some inappropriate things and seeing some pictures that are inappropriate as well. So there's my warning. Two things in the news right now, today. Two girls, 12 and 14, arrested in death of bullied Florida girls who killed herself. Is anybody familiar with this, this news story? This is going on as we speak, and they're considering charges against the parents as well for allowing the teenage girls to bully this other girl to the point that she kills herself. Spanish teacher reportedly fired after her Playboy past was revealed. Getting yourself, what you do and the image you portray of yourself online has effects. And that's what we're going to talk about today. And we're also going to talk about some of the laws behind it, what affects those and what sets the standard. Why are we concerned? But I'm going to be awfully hard on cops. I've got a career in law enforcement. We're going to talk about them. We're going to talk about the public service. We're going to talk about teachers. We're also going to touch on the private sector here. Do we have teachers in the room? Nope. Okay. This will be relevant to you. This is actually the team lieutenant of a police department. You know, he was anyway. I get a lot of use out of him, actually, also. And he might have been a fine, upstanding officer who really was dedicated to his job. I don't know. Unfortunately, this is all that I know about him, and this is the image that I have of him right here. This, several images that leaked on him. They were on their way back from Katrina. He had the SWAT team down there during the hurricane. They stopped at a local restaurant, ended up talking to the girls into coming out and posing with them at their SWAT vehicle, and handed them their weapons that they carry and posed for pictures. Nothing good is going to come from this whatsoever. No, that's you don't let people, right. If you're going to do that, we have, such as the Citizens Police Academy, where we teach people in the community. We give them an overview of the police department and what goes on. We have one day which is firearms for that. It's a very controlled situation where we let them actually shoot some of the weapons that police officers carry in the line of duty, but it is an extremely controlled environment. We don't just pass out guns for the public to hang on to. Does anybody remember him? Good. When I talk to younger kids, they don't know who Gilbert Godfrey is. Okay, do you remember what got him in trouble? He was the voice of the Aflac duck for Aflac, and he was also the bird in. He's the voice of the bird in Aladdin, was it? Very talented voiceover, but after the horrendous earthquake and tidal wave that killed so many people in Japan, he was tweeting jokes about it. And now, what he may or may not have known was that Aflac does 75% of their business in Japan. The last thing they need is one of their representatives, employees, tweeting jokes about the devastation. Employment and social media rights and responsibilities. People talk about it, and I was interested in the end of the doctor's presentation because it's right. There are considerations that the last presentation that overlap. You do have a right to free speech. But where does that free speech right come into conflict with your employment? The first consideration is, obviously, is it derived from your job? If you're showing pictures or teachers, if you're talking about your students online, if you're taking pictures of students, of something you do in the performance, for police, I would say accidents, and posting them online, you could probably have a real problem with this. Not could be. Well, you could if your department took issue with it. What the courts really look at is the speech or photo of public concern. If you're going on your Facebook account or your Twitter account and you're talking about politics of the day, things that have a public interest and a public debate, you're generally going to be okay with that. What you're not going to be okay with is name calling and obscene things. And this comes from the Supreme Court's rule on this, and the most famous case that is quoted is San Diego versus Roe. Roe's a fictitious name for an officer. He was, and I'll give you the very nickel version of the case, but he was selling videos of himself. He was a police officer, and he was on eBay selling videos of himself undressing and then engaging into certain obscene behavior. His department found out about it, and they took issue with that, even though it was completely away from the department. He wasn't using a department uniform. He wasn't using anything department related. They still took issue with it. Long story short, they fired him. Lawsuit to follow. The Supreme Court got it, and they said there's no problem with this whatsoever. He represents the department, and that type of conduct, you can't allow that. Does the speech disrupt the work environment? If what you're talking about so disruptive that it's going to cause a problem with recruiting, it's going to cause a problem with retention, it's going to disrupt a harmonious environment in which you expect people to work in. How does it affect Eastern students right here? Can Eastern students be held accountable through the student standards for what they put on their Facebook or Twitter account? Yes, no? Thoughts?
I'd say yes.
Yes, absolutely. And this is the standard that they would quote to you right out of their Code of Conduct book. If it's verbal abuse, and that means electronic also, is it going to disrupt the school environment, the academic environment? Well, sure it is. And they can't have that, and that's not fair for the other students as well. Here's a couple cases I like to talk about. Jessie Lunderby. She worked for a sheriff's department in Washington County, and I believe it was Arkansas, who decided to take on another career as posing for Playboy. And now there's some, in reading the facts on this, there's some discussion on whether her department knew that that's what she was going to do. But once the pictures came out, the sheriff fired her, asked her to resign. She's no longer employed there and is able to pursue a full-time career in modeling. Does anybody think that's wrong?
The term asked to resign, is it kind of firing, but it's kind of making it saving her face? And you ask somebody to resign.
I use that as a figure of speech. I'm not sure if she was actually fired or if she was asked to resign, but in some cases, sometimes they'll give you the option to resign. If you don't resign, we're going to go after termination proceedings.
I think that's what happened. I saw that
Did you?
They asked her, and I think she said no.
Bottom line is, she's no longer employed there. She lost a career because of what was out there, and they were able to attach it to, this is one of our employees, and this isn't the image we want of one of our employees.
She didn't let them know that she was doing this.
There's difference of opinion on that. I read something where she said that they did know, and she had it approved ahead of time, and that's up for debate. But regardless, she's no longer working there.
At Eastern, it's mandatory, if you have another job besides working at Eastern, you do have to get permission for a second job.
Yep.
And you do a form that's approved and
Yep.
signed.
So do we. So do we. So does the police department. If you're going to seek outside employment, they have to know what it is and approve it for some of those same reasons.
The career she lost is the Playboy thing or the police?
No, the sheriff's department. She lost that career.
She wanted to do both at the same time?
I don't know how extensive her modeling was at that time. If it was initially going to be a one-time thing or if it was going to be an ongoing thing. I don't know.
If she left the police, like any citizen, she can do whatever she likes.
Yes, sure, absolutely.
It's not like the police going after her and saying, hey, we have...
No, not at all. There's no crime against it, but you're not going to be connected to our organization. And I want to make that point too. In a lot of these cases that we're going to talk about, especially with teachers, maybe they end up getting their jobs back, because some of the times when I put stuff up on here, the final result, it was still in either litigation or arbitration. Maybe they got their job back, but is this really the headache you want? In one case, the teacher ended up being fined over $15,000. Is it really worth being able to write a handful of sentences online for $15,000? You may get your job back, but it's not going to be a good career move for you. And that's really what I want to get across to Eastern students also, is think about your future and what you're putting out there, even at this stage right now. And we're going to talk later. I don't want to get ahead of myself either. Carly Becker had the same issue. Although she wasn't a certified teacher, she was a cheerleading coach, and once she got the job, then they found out that she had also posed for Playboy in the past. In the past, yeah, it wasn't currently, but that wasn't the image that they wanted for young girls. Now, we can disagree, and there's discipline that we'll talk about later that I disagree with. I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't have disciplined the officer if it was my choice. At least to that extent. I might have called him in and talked to him and tried to salvage him. But each organization may be different, and what you may get an oral reprimand for or even get mentored for in one organization, you might get terminated for in another. So that's what I really want to get across in this. And this is a good example of that right here. This is a squad car right here, and they had a car wash. The police officer, off duty, takes his own car up there to the car wash, gets it washed, takes it home, gets his take-home squad car, and takes it up there. Oh, this is tattoo shop sponsored the car wash. Takes it up there, snaps a picture of the girls washing his squad car, and I believe he posted it on Facebook. Police department gets it. Oh, and one of the girls is actually a sheriff's deputy, by the way. What do you think? Mm-hmm. Now, nope. The one whose car it is works for the city. One of the girls in the picture works for the sheriff's office. What do you think happened to the officer who snapped the picture and put it online? He's terminated. Does everybody agree with that? And you know what? I'm the minority opinion here. I probably wouldn't have. I probably would have called him in, talked to him, take it down, talked about thinking ahead on things like this. Depending on the officer, he might have had other issues. I don't know.
But this car belongs to
City. Yep, some government entity. It's not his.
He takes something that belongs to.
Right. He just attached these girls posing like this to the car.
That belongs to the.
Right, belongs to the police department, sure.
I would think what type of precedent would set if they didn't terminate him.
I understand. And a lot of it depends on your community. And community standards are a lot. What do you think happened to the deputy?
Did she get reprimanded?
She didn't lose her job. I don't know if she even got reprimanded. But her argument would have been, I'm here working a charity car wash. Somebody took a picture. I can't help that. I don't blame her necessarily. And I don't know which one the deputy was either.
If he got his own car, not the police car,
Mm-hmm.
and he's still a policeman,
Mm-hmm.
would he still be?
I don't think he'd had a problem if that was his car up there. Say that was his Buick or Corvette or whatever. I don't think he'd have a problem with it. It depends. If the girls were doing something on the car which could be construed as obscene.
So let's say that the same thing, just to move the car and put his car,
Mm-hmm.
just to have all the
Right.
same.
I don't think so.
His behavior would be similar to like this,
It could be possible. But no, in this instance, I think it was the car, at least from the news article that I've got. And if anybody wants to see any of these news articles, I've got them referenced, and I made a copy of the news article also.
Is there any way that he can lie? Say this is not a police car, it's just like police cars cannot be there's no number to it. These lights are common thing that somebody can.
Well, that would be lying, and that would get him. That would be an absolute termination.
He will lie, but nobody can catch him.
Well, there's 4 people here, and one of them's a deputy. And she ain't gonna lie. She ain't gonna. And you know, and I wouldn't want him to, because he can move on to a different job. For this, he could probably move on and get another job. For lying,
Sorry, my question is, if he stands and says, this is not a police car, this is my car, but I put this as if it's mine. Is there any evidence? There's nothing that can just one point. Say that this is not a police car. As a policeman,
yes, I think that they could, because he's dressed. Even if he did that, he's still attached himself and the department by making it look like it would be a police car. That's a good point. I'm going to give you some tips. Here's the first tip, and this is the glaring one. Disconnect yourself from your employer. I have a Facebook account. I'm not scared of social media. I'm somewhat careful about it. I espouse my political views on Facebook, but that's it. I converse with people and talk about things, but you don't find anything on there where you see me in uniform. I don't list my occupation on there. My little profile picture is the old school marching panther that EIU used to have.
so you even don't have to use your own name. You can use any other name, any other picture, so nobody really knows who you are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, there are pictures of me online. I have pictures of me and my family on there, but in the profile pic that shows up on the front,
Do you
I
have
don't.
control on who visits your
Mhm.
website?
Yep, and we're going to talk about that too, privacy settings.
You know.
Yep. First of all, don't post inappropriate pictures of yourself. You would think that that's a no-brainer, but it's not. People do it all the time, and we're going to talk about that as well. Don't list your employer and then go on to talk about off-color topics. If you list your employer and then you're talking about how much you don't like certain segments of the community, race, gender, ethnicity, you're going to have a problem. You could have a problem anyway. If someone, and this is starting to become just general common courtesy also, if somebody tags you in a photo you feel is inappropriate, remove it. I had a buddy of mine who posted a picture of me with a group of guys back when we were in the service. We were overseas. I was probably 20 at the time, 21. I was smoking. I immediately untagged. I don't smoke anymore. I am completely against it, and I don't want people to see me that way. So be careful of what other people are tagging you into, and think about, before you tag other people in pictures, think about whether or not, you may want to get their permission, actually. What's that? When you post a picture, you can slide the cursor over people's faces, and you can say who they are, and then that shows up on their Facebook page also. So if I took a picture of this room, I could slide it over you, and then I could put your name in, and it automatically goes to his Facebook account, and everybody who he's friends with can see it. And the same thing for you, and you.
If I'm not on Facebook, you can take me.
Right, right. Alcohol. Alcohol has become a big issue, and I can't stress this enough, especially with teachers. Here's two police officers. They may be former police officers now. One was a state trooper. The other one worked for a municipality. And again, these pictures I'm going to put up, I'm not saying that these were bad officers, any of them, but if they could take it back, I'm sure that they would. They were horsing around with alcohol and firearms, and this is the picture that got out. And is this how you want your police department portrayed? The answer to that is obviously no. This poor lady, the story that I understand from this, she wasn't drinking or smoking or it was her husband who took the pictures. They were joking around, playing around between themselves until such a time as they became separated, at which time he posted these to try to make her look bad. You got to think about what you're doing. This is not the image that you. No, go ahead, doctor.
There is a law that came recently.
Mm-hmm.
You can only, never show the exit picture that you have, but just for 1 day. Something weird. Just this week, the judge said you will not punish him because he did that, but only give him 1 day on. The law is not anything new.
I'm
It's okay, do it for 2 days.
I'm not familiar with it. This is not, if you want to be a professional, this is not the image that you want to portray of yourself. This is not how you want to give yourself to the public. This young lady was a school teacher on a, are you familiar with this case right here? She was overseas, simply posed with a couple glasses of alcohol. This got her terminated. They said it was a bad influence on our students. Does anybody agree with that?
Is she doing something school related?
During this? No, I don't believe so. I believe it was over summer vacation. I believe so.
I do. I think it breaches professionalism because all of those students in that class, they look up,
Mm-hmm.
particularly the younger students, that image of this teacher, she's perfect, she's got all the answers, and we model ourselves after these people. Even though she's not doing anything that's wrong, it's extremely unprofessional to put it out there. Because people are going to see it, hey, there's Miss Smith, there's my teacher.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that what she has the right to do what she's doing, but as a teacher, as a police officer, as a fireman, whatever, you're held to a higher standard in your community, and part of that position involves, being mindful of things like this, I think.
Unfortunately for her, her superintendent felt the same way, or whoever in the school who made the final decision. Him? Him? Okay. No, this was just a picture I pulled out. This is just for a visual effect. If this isn't how you need to, this isn't necessarily.
I agree with you, but my point is, if a person has a tendency to do this between him and himself,
Mm-hmm.
he likes to do it, but he is politically correct and wise enough not
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm still having the same teacher,
Mm-hmm.
sending the student
Mm-hmm.
another picture. Same person is able and wanting to do this
Mhm.
because of the fear or because of the he doesn't show it.
Mm-hmm.
But there's the poison is there. The poison is there. Yes, nobody saw him hard doing this,
Mm-hmm.
but what makes him do this is the root of that.
You may want to keep your private life private. Now me, I don't necessarily have a problem with the lady with the alcohol. My parents probably would have. My parents were both school teachers, and I remember them telling me growing up they wouldn't go to a rated R movie. They had religious problems with it also, but they didn't want to go in and see one of their students or a student's parent and simply, well, they went to this rated R movie. That was a big deal when I was growing up. Going to a rated R movie was a big deal. So that was kind of their philosophy too, and it really holds with exactly what you were saying as well. She may have gotten her job back. I'm not exactly sure where that was on, but she has really gone through a lot of problems because of that picture.
Well, what if somebody had taken that picture and they had posted it? Like, it wasn't something that she posted herself. You know
Well,
what I mean? Like,
that's a
there's
good-
so much of a gray area there. If you don't have control what other people do, granted, you could be out with your friends and they take a picture.
Mhm.
You don't know that they're going to post it or
No.
not.
You're 100% right.
And in
Um,
the situation of a teacher, perhaps the thing to do is, I have a personal Facebook thing, this is for my friends and family. I have a professional Facebook thing, that's stuff that I wouldn't mind my students or whoever seeing, so that is there and only those people have access to it, and just like
Well,
playing with those privacy restrictions.
if it were me and I was a teacher, I wouldn't have any of my students friended
Well,
on
that's
my
what I
account
think, yeah.
either. And
Districts, that's kind of their.
Is that- are they-
They say don't keep any connection with your students on your personal social media.
look, I've only got so many examples here. I have this many examples, and there's this many out there. There's teachers fired because they're of a sexual nature that they're talking with their students on Facebook about. I mean, this just goes on and on. I could update this weekly. You know, some of this information is stale, and by stale in this day and age, I mean a couple years old. But it's the same stuff. People are getting in trouble for the same thing time after time. And this is why I really want to, get this through to people going into the job market of thinking about this. When I came into law enforcement, we were told the three things that are going to get you in trouble is money, women, and alcohol. If you get fired, one of those three things are probably going to be the root of it. Now, 25 years later, we've added a fourth, a hard drive. But it may also have something to do with one of those other three things also. We're going to look at some of the comments here. One officer on his Facebook posted that he was, did anybody here seen the movie Training Day? Good movie. Good movie, entertaining. Denzel Washington, Ethan Hawke star in it. Completely unethical unit of a police department. And he's talking about how that's what he's using to brush up on his proper police procedures. And then I believe the defense attorney in one of his arrests is the one who actually brought this up. Listed his occupation on Facebook as human waste disposal. Now, then I believe he got into a shooting. And again, it was the defense attorney who ended up digging this up off the officers and, of course, contending that does this make the officer a bad guy? No, it doesn't. I'm critical not of their professionalism so much as making a bad choice and how that one choice can be the reflection of their career. There's another guy that wrote how he was working with the FBI task force and was going to, and there were some other issues that he had also. These are not the things that you can write on social media and expect to.
What was the wrong with that statement?
He's working with the FBI this week. I smell $1 million drug seizure coming our way soon. The FBI really doesn't like their task forces are probably undercover to be broadcast to the public. Yeah, there's some confidentiality issues here also. Here's teacher. we're all of parent age here, and even if we don't have children, is this if you had a child who was in a fifth grader, is this what you would want your child's fifth grade teacher writing about? These got these teachers into hot water, various forms of hot water, from suspensions to terminations which went through the process and cost them a lot of money. But these are the things that we live in a world, and I might have mentioned this in one of your classes. We live in a world where, 50 years ago, if you were going to write something to the public, you pored over your words, you really looked at the grammar, you thought about how it was going to be a reflection of you, and you wanted to make sure the message got across. In this day and age, we live in a world that if you think it, you put it out, and you don't put it out just for your local community, you're putting it out for the world. And we got to think a little bit.
Scare and Strain program.
Oh, back in I think it was the 70s, they had a Scare Straight program where they took future criminals, your young 18, 19, 20-year-olds, they took them to the prisons, and you had some cooperative prison inmates that would absolutely verbally abuse them and scare them, basically, to let them know this isn't a place you want to come to. And she wants that for her first graders. She might have thought that she was trying to be funny, okay? But there are people who don't see the humor. This was these are teachers. This. Let's talk about applications too.
Sorry, go back to
Okay.
If these are true things,
Mm-hmm.
which it sees,
Mm-hmm.
you see any value other than
No, you're 100% right too. She may be in a position where she sees the children, she sees herself in a no-win situation because she can't control the classroom. When we were growing up, the teacher had complete control of the classroom. You didn't talk out of turn. You stood up when you were told to. You sat down when you were told to. You called everybody Mr. and Mrs. And that may be where she grew up. That may be her expectations. It may be that she doesn't get the support from administration. I don't know. I'm speculating now. She doesn't get support from administration. She feels as though she is powerless and is venting that. I don't know. I don't know what all is behind it.
I mean, we have seen many in your profession, so 7, 8, 9, 10 years,
Mm-hmm.
children are doing business plans to
Mhm.
kill and do that.
Mm-hmm.
By law, you can't use them like others, charge them like others, children.
Mm-hmm.
They have this really devious mentality in this age because of many other factors.
No, you're 100% right.
Now, because of other political correctness, maybe the administration of the school, because these are children of the people who pay money for whatever.
Mhm.
So they don't want to upset them.
Mm-hmm.
So they cover all this. This is true life. Who would solve the problem?
That's
Because
it.
these children are doing that. Exactly.
Yeah.
And she cannot do anything. The administration will say, no, don't bother parents.
Yeah.
So it's money after all. What will we do?
We could talk all afternoon on that. That's a deep question. I wish I had that answer.
I mean, because some of the terrorists, you see,
Mhm.
the guy in who killed Mr.
Alex.
No, Vidal something.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
In the trial, his bosses say that he got bad grades and he all the red flags, all the red
Mhm.
they always upgraded
But they didn't address it.
because they this is because of fear of being
Mhm.
looked at like this.
Mm-hmm.
So they let him go
Mhm.
all the way to do his crime.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody is people think that,
Yes.
and people die.
Personal responsibility, and people have to be willing to stand up and hold people to standards. and everybody needs to be held to the same standard.
She tried to do this and she was fired.
She was. This is not the era. Her Facebook page is probably not the best avenue to address it. She should have addressed it with the principal, the superintendent, the school board. That's the correct avenue. That I will say for her, and I think it was a her. What's that?
Whistleblower, I think.
Right. Applications. Are employers using that, looking at Facebook pages for applications? Does anybody think that they shouldn't? I get hands raised when I talk about this, and it's usually the younger generation. No, that's my private side over here, and when you make your private side public, then it's out there, right? Does the police department use it? Yeah, you bet we do. He just as though it was an insufficient tip. It cost her her job a couple days later, as soon as they found this. You think about it, if you own a restaurant, the bread and butter of your company is the customers. You can't have your waiters, waitresses, kitchen staff going back and talking about them afterwards. This was a headline. Virgin fired 13 crew members. Tight industry. I don't know. I pulled this off the internet, so I'm telling you, I don't know if this is the validity of this or not. But it makes a good example anyway of writing about your boss. Obviously, this was in England. At least it's written that way. But I put it up here just because it makes the point. If you're going to sit here and talk about your boss online, first of all, do you have him on your friend list so that he's going to read it? And second of all, even if he's not, there's a good chance, because of how everything's connected, he's going to read it because he's going to know somebody who is on your friend list, especially if you're all in the same work environment. Chances are you've got the same person friended. I don't know if this is real or not, but I think it makes a decent point. Call in sick. If you're going to call in sick and then post a picture of yourself from a Halloween party that you went to at the exact time that you should have been at work, I believe this young man had a paid internship at the time. And then, of course, this gets back to his work, and that is going to cause him problems. We talk about personal information and restricting your personal information online. And this is kind of a individual choice. I put stuff online that I've had other people say, oh, I'd never put that out there. Police officer putting pictures of their family out there, I don't really have a problem with it. I don't see the issue there. But other people may. But it's something everybody needs to be concerned about. Is your personal address listed? Mine is not. I'm not going to put out there exactly where I work. Furthermore, there are apps like Map My Run, I think is one of them. Adidas may have one where you can turn it on when you go for a run, and then you turn it off when you're done. Now, where do most people start their run from? Their house. And then there's a button that says add to Facebook. Well, what you've just done is told everybody in the world where you live and a GPS coordinates of where you live. And I've seen friends of mine do that, and I'm thinking, oh man, I'd never do that. I can see it. They go right off the road. I'm thinking you just went in your garage. Yeah. You know, you can tell exactly what they did. Of them. Mine was out there for a long time. Just take the year off and use the month and day. That's what a lot of people do.
What would the people do with your date of birth?
Identity theft. They're getting access to your full name and date of birth that way. And then if you go even further and you're putting your your address out there and whatnot. Somebody who's into identity theft could end up mining a lot of information from you. Cell phone numbers, some people don't put that out also, and I can certainly understand that. I don't want just everybody calling me, and especially children's information for some of the same reasons. Pictures are the same. That's my family in my living room. I don't have an issue with that, but other people may. Come on. I always get an awe out of that. There we go. I don't have problems putting grandkids' pictures out there also.
I mean, some children were kidnapped because of the picture taken and then sent to Facebook and...
Yeah, and you're not going to recognize my grandson from that picture now anyway. He's 4 now. But I just, yeah, I don't have a problem with that.
But is that you?
Yeah, that's me.
Couldn't recognize you.
I wore a buzz cut back then. Picture choice is important too. Now there's a picture of a female who's partially unclothed. She's a school teacher. Before she even posted this, she's also a fitness coach. Before she posted this, she got permission from her employer. She said, "Hey, look, this is what I want to do." And they went, "Oh, that's okay." But she ran that through. But how you put it out there, that is much different than this. And one is inappropriate and one is not. Does anybody think that would be inappropriate for a teacher to have on their page? Some people might. She talked about it, and I went, you know, you might want to just run that up the flagpole first just to see if anybody, because this is a judgment call. I don't see a back being a problem, but other people might. Don't put pictures of your workout. For, you know, if you're cops, don't put pictures of arrests. Well, then why did you just use one in a presentation? This is staged. This is, the guy getting arrested worked for us, and we put it together for a brochure. Otherwise, I wouldn't use it. I wouldn't use it here. If this was an actual arrest, and actually I could, because it's public pictures that we take in for evidence could be released through the proper channels, not from an officer snapping cell phone pictures of an accident scene.
And in real life, is it allowed that somebody would take a picture of arrest or something? Who takes picture like this? Another police officer?
Yeah, we would from time to time.
There is a police officer can take this?
It could. It could. We could for several reasons. This could be a still from the DUI camera. Also, this was made to look like a DUI arrest. We got the ear up there on top of the car. I was able to find an empty in the trash can down the road and put it up there for a fact. And he worked in our front office, and these were a couple of the officers we worked with at the time. And we went outside and staged a photo of a DUI arrest for a pamphlet we were doing.
If this is true life. And
Yeah, this is.
If somebody, I mean, real thing, not
Mhm.
the stage, and somebody walking in the street saw this and videotaped it or
Absolutely.
he is
Absolutely.
free to use it.
Yep, he is free to use it.
And if the police said no allowed, no photos allowed.
Nope, that's not gonna work.
No.
As long as he doesn't get in our way. Journalists do this all the time.
Okay.
You can use that. If you stay out of our way and stay back and you don't interfere with what we're doing, you're just fine. School teacher, beach picture. Does anybody see a problem with this?
It's kind of a matter of opinion, if they posted it or someone else did, or.
Gave her a lot of problems. Cost her a job. She had other problems as well, I believe. She ended up going from teaching to porn. And then, of course, that doesn't help you get back into teaching very easily either.
Talking about coming back, forgiveness is allowed if somebody has a past and just repented, true repentance, and been forgiven and everything. Would the system forgive or?
Some would. There's a lot to be said for falling on the sword and asking for forgiveness and trying to mend your ways. And every place is going to be different.
Now, there is a professor who was discovered after 30 or 40 years that when he was young, he killed his parents and brother or something. And he was 15, 16 at the time. But he, I don't know why, he paid for that or is in prison for 5, 6 years as a juvenile.
Mm-hmm.
And he made his way to become a PhD, and one of the beloved professors.
Yeah, that wasn't here at
No,
Eastern.
no.
I remember seeing that in the news now that you mention it, yeah.
And the university stood by him, I think. They said he is a wonderful person, we don't, I don't know.
But did he lie on his application?
What questions would you ask?
Have you ever been arrested or
Arrested.
convicted of a criminal offense?
I don't know.
That would be, lying on the application is a surefire way
Right.
to, and really with a lot of people who posed for porn, there was a story of an officer who, after he got hired, they found out that he had been in some homosexual porn movies, and they ended up firing him for that. He did it before he was an officer, but he didn't put down previous, and he didn't list all of his previous employment on his application. I think that's the direction that they went with it. Now, there would be other jurisdictions who just overlook it.
I'm not sure what you
and
said
go,
there.
okay, it was then, it's not now. A lot of it is going to be the environment in which that you work for. You know, again, I'd like to give you and say, these are hardline rules, don't do this, because if you do these things are gonna happen, but I really can't do that. What I can say is, these are pitfalls. All of these are pitfalls, and if you want to stay away from the pitfalls, so you don't have to wonder whether or not you're going to get called on the carpet, stay away from these issues. Here's our lieutenant again with part of his team. I'm only seeing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cops. I really hope that there's another 8 or 10 cops who are off to the side going, what is he doing? You know what I mean? Who are actually, one of them's probably taking a picture. So he's in the same boat with the rest of them. But this is not how you want yourself to be seen. Okay, this is a just off the net. This is the police officer. This isn't how you want to be seen. This is not how you want to project yourself to the public. Here's our lieutenant again on vacation, or I don't know, he's wearing a police patch on his shirt, I believe. Don't have girls posing on your squad cars, especially holding your AR-15s. It's just, you're gonna have problems. You are at least opening yourself up for it. Tip 7 is what else I want you to think about. Minimize your status updates. The time you have doesn't belong to you when you're at work. When you're at work, your time belongs to your employer. Minimize or completely eliminate or work within the guidelines of your employer if you're going to be commenting on other people's pictures, clicking like, or making any other type of status updates, or Twitter, or any other social media. If you're updating your status on the clock, then you're not devoting your work to the agency that you work for. Messaging others. Now, I used to tell people, and it may still be in an upcoming slide, if you need to message somebody, do it with an email instead of going through Facebook messaging. But the truth of the matter is, and I think you might have said it the other day in class, email is becoming a dying technology.
Right.
If you want to get a hold of people, so our detectives created an account just so that they can contact people. Because you got people who don't have a phone, or they do have a phone, it changes often. And if you want to get a hold of them, you have to Facebook them through Facebook messaging. So it's forcing our employees back on Facebook again. Phones are the same thing. Even if you're not using your department's computer, everybody can get on Facebook now because they do with smartphone technology. Yep, there it is. Use email instead. If you got it, use it. And this is what I would tell employees, and this is what I would tell officers. If you have to go to Facebook to message somebody, let your supervisor know. Let them know that this is what you're doing. It's kind of the same for police and pornography. We have the internet access. If an officer has to go to a pornographic website for some part of his job investigation, let the sergeant know ahead of time. Matter of fact, have the supervisor there. You can probably keep track of how much time you were on there and get off of the internet as quickly as you possibly can. And always remember who's paying for your time. This is what you really should be using the social media for right here, is to highlight your accomplishments. Use it to project yourself as a professional, a mover, a powerhouse in your community. If you're applying for a job, think about this when you're putting your Facebook page together and the pictures that you have on it. Portray yourself as a professional that they would want. And the message has to be responsibility. This is the professional image you should want to project to the community, to the world. There's absolutely nothing wrong with this. My teacher in the audience, this is how you want the world to see you. Right. Friends of mine who graduated from Eastern, this is the type of pictures that you would want out there. Very, very different from the drunk, passed out guy. That's not who they want to hire. Anyway, Dr. Wabi mentioned this. Manage your privacy settings, and I will tell you this with Facebook. I don't have Twitter, so I can't comment on Twitter. Facebook's, it changes. If you don't keep up on top of it, you can end up behind the curve. How they set up the privacy settings and what their norms are change periodically, so you got to kind of stay on top of it. Do you know who the people on your friend list are? There are people, and this is from a younger generation, it's somewhat of a status symbol to have a lot of friends on your account. So they will accept a friend request from anybody. I manage the police department's Facebook account. I put the press releases out and the comments from the police department on it. And I always look through the people who have friended us. And I will eliminate those, because a lot of it is just people fishing for information who just send out mass friend requests. So I will kind of look, and if there are things that jump out at me, if it's suspicious or not. Where are your privacy settings? We talked about that. If your friends post rude comments, you may want to eliminate them, because that will end up showing up on your account also. When in doubt, leave it out. And this is the example, the visualization I want to leave with you. You know where I'm going with this already? Do you want your grandma to read it? Use your best judgment here. I love the rule of grandma. I used to tell guys when I was in field training young officers, I say, look, if you don't want to read about it, if you read about it, what you did in the paper tomorrow, and you don't like how it sounds, don't do it. No, it's not the newspaper. It's the World Wide Web. Think about the things you do. A lot of careers have gotten ended over bad choices online. I don't care whether you're a Republican or a Democrat. You like the guy or not. He had a promising, shining career. Anybody not know who this is? Okay. You do? Don't? Anthony Weiner, who's a representative from New York, got caught up in inappropriate use of the internet, pictures that got out. It really cost him a lot. Whether you agree with his politics or not, it cost the man a career. He tried to have a comeback and run for New York City mayor, and they found out more of the same kept coming out. We've got to think about what we're doing ahead of time. Does anybody have any further questions? I really like the fact people asking questions during the presentation. I like that. Sometimes I don't get that. There's my information. If you guys have any questions whatsoever, anything comes up, please feel free to give me a call. I'd love to talk to you.
What about, like, because so many of the departments on campus anymore are creating their own Facebook pages. Like, for instance, the other day we got one from our college, and theirs is a public Facebook. So, like, anyone can get on there, anyone can see it. Then when I clicked on and tried to get on our department web page, we have it set up where I actually had to sign into Facebook before I could see it. Like, otherwise it showed it like didn't exist kind of thing. Is there anything across campus that is like they're trying to get some kind of a consistency with that kind of stuff? Or also, like, I go in and work in Banner a lot, and so I may go in and search for a student that says, hey, this student's information is confidential. But then, like, if we've got these Facebook pages and departments and even social groups or whatever that are posting pictures of those students affiliated with Eastern, but Eastern's got them listed as confidential, aren't we kind of like getting into that gray area there where, like, do we have to like literally have all the students and faculty and staff and everyone sign disclosures saying, you know, you can post this stuff online?
Very possible. I wish I had an answer from that. I have nothing to do with Eastern's Facebook or anything that they do with it. But that is something that they probably have a policy in place for. And I don't know how that policy reads. I've not read theirs. Charleston Police has we've adapted our own Facebook policy, and we have a policy for our officers' use of social media, and I encourage departments to consider that. Not consider the policy as an avenue in which you can discipline your officers later, but use the policy so they understand what's okay and what's not okay to put out there. Save them ahead of time. Let's not try to discipline afterwards. Let's try to keep them from doing it before they get to that point. And that's really the goal, and that's why I'm here today too, and that's why I want to talk to you. Think about this. If you've got young people that you, or even, as you showed here, it's not just young people either. Talk to them. If you see something, if you're on your own social media and you see something, you go, oh man, that's a problem. Pick up the phone and talk to them. My wife has done that, and then gotten a hearty thank you for it afterwards. Let's friends, family, let's do what we can to keep each other out of some hot water. Does anybody else have any questions? Dr. Walker? All right. I'll give it to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.